Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Now here at Moves Method, we help athletes and fitness enthusiasts to become strong, mobile and injury-free, and to really learn the correct way to train mobility so they can get long-lasting results. In today's video, I'm going to share 4 of my favorite exercises for the hip joint, and it's going to help improve your movement, it's going to help prevent injuries, and it's just going to make you feel robust and resilient in your day-to-day life. If you find these videos helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel because it really helps us to be able to share this with more people. With that said, let's get into it. The first exercise is the horse stance. Now this has to be my favorite exercise for developing strong hips, adductors and legs. It's going to make your lower body super robust and it's going to prepare you for advanced skills like the middle splits. You're going to assume a 5-step with horse stance. So you're going to notice how I move my toes and heels out into a 5-step and then I drop down into that horse stance. What you want to do here is you want to make sure that both of your toes are pointing forward, your knees are driving out over the toe and your hips are pushing forward. So slight posterior pelvic tilt, and you're going to notice that my torso is really upright. So I don't want to be leaning forward. If I have my hands out in front of me, it's easier than if I have my hands behind me because you're counterbalancing with your hands in front of you. So you can challenge yourself by playing with the positions of the hands. Another thing you can do to challenge yourself is place a stick on top of your thighs, which will keep you honest and going to make sure that you're sort of in that correct position. And if you watch me from the side, you're going to notice that my torso is super straight. So I'm not leaning forward. I'm really trying to engage that posterior pelvic tilt, driving the hips forward, pushing the torso back as I push my hips forward. This is going to be quite difficult for you to hold for a long time because it challenges your whole lower body really. So just make sure that you're not leaning forward like this. Just make sure that you're actually pushing that torso back, driving those hips forward, and then you're going to get the most out of this exercise. Really, really good one for strengthening the hips, adductors, glutes, lower back, knees, ankles, all of it. So once you get super proficient in 5 steps, you can even go wider. So you can see me here doing a 7-step horse stance. Now that's really wide. So it's going to challenge those ligaments, tendons and joints even more so. And holding this position, you can see that I'm coming closer to that middle split. And holding this is going to strengthen you to the next level. Over time, obviously the goal is for us to be here in this middle split straight position, and the horse stance will really help with that, provided that you accumulate time and that you strengthen yourself in that position. The second exercise is what I call the split squat killer. This one is going to completely destroy your hips, but in a really good way. Typically when I do this one, I feel like I'm walking on clouds after. So you have to pay attention to the form of this exercise, okay? So I try to really assume that posterior pelvic tilt. I want to tuck my hip under me, sort of like tucking the tailbone under, because that is going to stretch the back hip, which is what we want. So don't relax your lower back. Tighten it up from the beginning, and you're going to go down into this small sort of lunge pulse. You're going to pulse for 6 reps, holding that nice tight position, and then you're going to pause for 6 seconds in that bottom position. As soon as you're done that, you're going to lean forward with your knee over your toe. Try to stretch out that hip as much as you currently can and try to stay active in that position. From there, I'm going to pulse the back knee. So you can see I'm touching the ground and then straightening my knee. I do that for 6 reps. So there's no pause here. I'm doing all of this one after another. 6 reps of a pulse, and I hold again for 6 seconds. By now, you'll be burning. And to finish it off, you're going to do 6 full split squats. So really stretching out that back hip again. Once you've done your 6 split squats, you're going to come down into a really low lunge hold. And this is where the magic happens, okay? So you see me really straightening that back leg, extending my front leg into more of a longer lunge, and I'm going to hold this. Now this is where the magic happens. 30 seconds of this after you're finished with the movements of 6 reps, it's going to absolutely be the icing on the cake, and it's going to destroy your hips in the best possible way. When you get comfortable, you can even start to add load in this position in the form of dumbbells. This is incredible for strengthening your lower body, your legs, your hips, and also preparing you for the front splits. So you can see that eventually, once we get super strong legs, we'll be able to hold this position with straight legs in our front splits. Again, really great for strengthening your overall lower body. I would not be skipping this exercise. Another one of my favorites. The third exercise is a locked knee straddle good morning. So this one is really all about teaching you how to hinge in those hips. So you're going to notice here how I'm holding my hands in my hip flexor. That's for you to understand that you want to feel like you're squashing something in between your hips. You really want to feel like you're pulling your hip socket upwards as you come down with your torso. And you're keeping those knees locked and you're trying to get down as low as you can maintain a nice flat back. If you currently don't have a lot of range, you can certainly bend your knees slightly, so keep them soft, and then practice that hinge. It's all about shooting the hips back. It's not about getting your torso to the ground. So don't like fold over. Think about pushing the hips back and really hinging, almost like you're driving the tailbone up to the sky. So this variation is for beginners with a slight bend in the knee. Once you've achieved that, you can go down into a seated good morning or even a squat good morning. So I really like to do this sort of horse stance wide squat good morning. Opens up the lower body really nicely. And learning how to do this, it's going to eventually allow you to be able to hinge far enough that you can come down into a pancake on the floor, as I show here. So like it's all about articulating your pelvis and learning how to hinge in those hips, strengthening that hip flexor, strengthening the lower back, the adductors and the hamstrings. Really amazing exercise. So you can see a few different variations there that I show depending on what level you are. It's all about getting that nice range, controlled movement, 10 to 12 reps, and always pausing for 10 to 15 seconds in the lowest position on the last rep. The fourth exercise is the active pigeon. Now this one is incredible for strengthening that external rotation of the hip, and it's going to make you feel like you have the most open hips in the world after you're finished with that. It's important to pay attention to the technique because we really want to be targeting that front hip. So you're going to assume a long lunge position and you're going to place your hands on either side of your foot. And it's important to keep most of your weight in your front foot. So the weight won't be in your hands, it's going to be in the blade of your front foot. And that's what sort of creates that tension on the outside of your knee and your glute and allows you to get a deep stretch. So you're going to go in and out through your armpit, driving that knee towards the ground as low as you can. You don't need to touch the ground at the moment, that will come over time. So you just go as low as you can. And you're going to do this for reps, for 10, and then you're going to pause for 10 seconds in this bottom position, really stretching it out. If this is too difficult for you, you can definitely reduce the range of motion. So as I show here, you get into that lunge and it's totally fine to go right like where you stop here. No point going to the ground if you can't maintain the correct form. Go as far as your current range allows. You can even elevate your foot slightly onto a bench to again decrease that range of motion. So wherever you are, hold that position and really work within your current range. So there you have it, guys. 4 of my favorite exercises to recap. The horse stance, you start off with 5 steps. I would suggest holding it for 30 seconds to a minute. 4 to 5 sets per session. And then the goal is to increase the time where, you know, by week 4, 5, 6, you're holding it for 2 to 3 minutes for 3 to 4 sets. It's such an amazing way to strengthen the hip flexors in that isometric position, as well as the legs, the lower back, the glutes, everything, and it's going to help you towards your splits. Once you get comfortable with the 5 stance, you can increase that to 7 stance. You can increase it by holding onto load like a barbell or a dumbbell and progress that way. Exercise number 2 is what I call the split squat killer. So this one's really going to stretch out your hip flexor. It's going to strengthen your legs, your knees. It's going to prepare you for that front split work, and just really good for like keeping the hips strong, robust, resilient. 2 sets of this, your hips are going to be feeling like they're walking on clouds, literally. So the goal is just to make sure you get that posterior pelvic tilt, and then the goal is just to move through all of the movements without pausing and then holding that really low long lunge position at the end. The third exercise, the straddle good mornings, really just teaches you how to hinge in those hips. It's so important to be able to learn how to hinge your hips, posterior pelvic tilt, because that's really going to be the key to unlocking your hips and being able to stretch out that hamstring from the back. So, you know, starting from a standing position, if you're a complete beginner, you can even keep your knees slightly unlocked and then work it there. And then obviously once you get more comfortable, you can do it seated, you can do it in a horse stance position, and then eventually eventually on the floor. The goal is to obviously get perpendicular to the floor before you start to add some load to strengthen your joints that way as well. And the fourth and final exercise is the active pigeon. Incredible exercise for teaching you how to externally rotate and really strengthening that side hip, side glute area. It's going to be pulling on the knee quite a lot. So if you have knee issues, I would suggest that you go and do it on an incline bench. So kind of just get that knee to the bench and up and down. That's really going to help alleviate that sort of tension on the knee. And as you get stronger, obviously, you can reduce the incline until you're flat on the bench. You can do these exercises in this sequence that I showed you twice a week for your lower body days, and work towards progressively increasing the range of motion, increasing the hold times, and then adding external load. You're going to notice how when you train mobility correctly, it almost ends up being like a strength session. It's quite intense on the whole lower body, on your core, even on your upper body, because you have to work to keep that posture upright. So mobility training is a lot more than just stretching. We're really strengthening those joints. We're putting them through their full range of motion. We're increasing that range of motion and then adding load to that range of motion, which is key towards helping you achieve long-lasting mobility and most of all preventing injuries. So there you go guys, 4 of my favorite exercises for the hips and the lower body in general. Try them for the next month or so and you're going to see how much benefit you're going to get and how much better you're going to feel in your body. Walking on clouds, hips of a well-oiled machine. That's the name of the game. Make sure that you subscribe and let us know in the comments what else you want to see on this channel.